The last time I heard her voice, she was calling me pathetic with a mouthful of someone else's name. And then she was gone. No slammed door. No bags thrown out the window. Just absence. Like someone deleted her from my life with a quiet click of the mouse. 1 minute, I was a husband. The next, I was an empty space she didn't feel obligated to explain. I didn't post online. I didn't call her friends. I didn't scream or key anyone's car. I just stopped existing in her world. Completely. And for 3 years, I let it stay that way. I buried myself under small jobs and smaller routines. I walked without looking up. I avoided the color red because it reminded me of her lipstick. And then, 3 years, 9 days, and 4 hours later, I saw her. She was walking barefoot down the beach with a man whose shirt cost more than my rent. She looked older. Not worse, just different. Like she'd become someone else in the time I spent trying to forget she ever existed. And then she saw me. And that confident strut she always had, the one she used to leave me like I was luggage at a bus stop, just collapsed. Right there, on the sand. Her hand slipped from the man's arm like it didn't know him anymore. That should have been enough for me. But it wasn't. Because here's what she didn't know. I didn't come to that beach by accident. I didn't just stumble back into her orbit like some unlucky ex-husband who wandered into karma's crossfire. No, I wanted her to see me. I needed her to see what she lost. Because while she was busy building a beautiful new lie, I had quietly made sure the truth would wreck her. You see, the thing about disappearing is, if you do it right, they don't even notice until it's too late. And Tessa, she was so sure I'd just fade into nothing after what she did. She probably pictured me drinking alone, staring at old wedding photos, sending her long paragraphs at 2 a.m. that she'd never read. That's the kind of man she believed I was. A man who'd break quietly. A man who wouldn't fight. She was wrong. I didn't break. I bent. I twisted. I adapted. I suffered. Yeah, a lot. But then I planned. The beach wasn't random. It was the same beach where we had our so-called clean break. The final conversation. Or more accurately, the final monologue. Because she didn't let me speak. She told me I was emotionally exhausting. That being with me was like living inside a sigh. I remember those words exactly because I've replayed them in my head for years. Not because they hurt, they did. But because they were lazy. That's the part that killed me. After everything, she didn't even bother crafting a real excuse. She left me for a man named Griffin, and she made it sound like I drove her into his arms by being too steady. So when I walked onto that beach last week, it wasn't to take in the view. It was to finish something. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost she hadn't mourned properly. The new guy, the polished, overpriced substitute for me, tried to say something, but she reached out and grabbed his arm like she was the one who needed protection. Her voice cracked as she said my name. Melvin. And here's the best part. I didn't answer. I just looked at her. One long look. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. She took a step forward. Her feet hesitated, like she wasn't sure if she should approach me or run. I could see the calculations behind her eyes. How much did I know? Why was I here? Did I look better than I used to? That last part probably stung the most. Because the thing is, I did look better. I had lost weight. I'd gotten rid of the glasses. I wore a plain gray jacket and dark jeans. Nothing flashy, but not the oversized Target sweaters she used to mock me for wearing. I'd grown into my own silence. And that silence, right then, was louder than anything I could have said. She stammered something like, "This is so unexpected, and what are you doing here?" But I didn't flinch. Because I knew something she didn't. I knew who the man beside her was. I knew what he'd been hiding. And I knew, with absolutely unshakable certainty, that by the end of the day, she'd regret ever stepping onto that sand. She kept looking at me like she was waiting for permission to breathe. And that smug-looking man beside her, he had no clue what was happening. He reached for her hand again, and she yanked it away like she was suddenly ashamed to be touched. I watched her try to compose herself, standing there in a flowy beach dress like the embodiment of a Pinterest life. Everything curated to look effortless and happy. But I knew the cracks. I'd lived inside them. "I didn't know you were in town," she finally said, her voice softer than I remembered. Hesitant, as if the right tone could erase everything she did. "It's been a long time." I raised an eyebrow, nothing more. Because if I opened my mouth, I might start laughing, and once I started, I wouldn't stop. The nerve of it. Like we were old friends bumping into each other at a grocery store. Like she hadn't left me emotionally gutted and humiliated in my own living room 3 years ago, with a backpack and a phone full of Griffin's selfies. And speaking of Griffin, he was standing right there. That's what made the whole thing deliciously ironic. You see, she didn't know I knew. But I knew everything. That man at her side wasn't just some fling who'd become something more. He was the one she left me for. The one she swore was just someone she was texting during that last fight we had. I recognized him the moment I saw the tattoo on his left forearm, the one I found in one of the photos she accidentally airdropped to our shared iPad. That was 2 weeks before she left. And now here he was, smiling awkwardly like he didn't just blow up 2 marriages with one sleazy grin. I didn't say a word. I let them squirm in the silence. Tessa was always terrified of silence. She once told me that quiet made her feel like something was about to fall apart. So I used that silence like a weapon. Let it hang between us like a loaded question. I could see the questions eating at her. Why now? Why here? What do you want? Finally, she cracked. Are you okay? She asked, tilting her head, trying to soften her voice into something nurturing. It was so fake it made my skin crawl. I mean, after everything. I didn't know if you. You mean after you disappeared without warning? I said, cutting her off, still calm. My voice didn't even rise. Or after the voicemail where you forgot to hang up and I heard him in the background laughing about how I still folded your laundry. Griffin froze. Tessa's eyes widened, lips parting in pure panic. Melvin, I raised a hand. Not to threaten, just to stop her. I wasn't interested in the performance. Not this time. You lied. You left. You replaced me. That's fine. I've made peace with all of it, I said. But what you don't know, what you never care to find out, is that I didn't just vanish. I rebuilt. And today, I came here on purpose. She blinked rapidly, the way she used to when she was caught in a lie but didn't have the story straight yet. Her gaze bounced from me to Griffin and back again. She was unraveling and had no script for this version of me. Not the calm, prepared, silent me. The Melvin she left behind would have cried. This version didn't need to. Griffin stepped forward like he was about to say something smart, but before he could speak, my phone buzzed. Right on time. I pulled it out, looked at the screen, and smiled, just slightly. Then I turned it so she could see it. It was a photo, a blurry shot, taken through glass, of Griffin, and someone else. A woman. Not Tessa, not me, and definitely not new. Her face went ghost white. Griffin turned red. My silence. It just kept speaking louder than either of them could handle. I didn't need revenge. I just needed the truth to walk right up to them and explode. She didn't speak. Not right away. Her eyes stayed locked on the photo like it was some kind of hallucination she could blink away if she stared long enough. But the screen didn't lie. It was Griffin, very clearly leaning in close with a woman in a car. The angle said everything. The way his hand rested on her thigh. The fact that she was laughing, mouth open, wild hair tangled in his fingers. It wasn't a friendly hug. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was proof. Proof that the man she left me for had already moved on, or maybe never stopped moving on to begin with. Tessa finally turned her head toward him, slow and brittle, like even her neck didn't want to cooperate with what was coming next. Who is that? She asked, and for a moment I could still hear the old version of her, the commanding tone she used when she was used to getting answers. But Griffin wasn't built for confrontation. I could tell. He did the nervous laugh thing guys do when they don't want to admit they've been caught. It's not what it looks like, he muttered. Of course that's what he said. They always do. I almost pitied him. Tessa stepped back from him like he was suddenly made of fire. She crossed her arms, but it was fake. A weak defense. She looked at me again, and this time there was something new in her eyes. Fear. Not the kind that makes you run. The kind that makes you realize you've burned all your escape routes and someone else is holding the map. Why would you come here just to do this? She asked, voice low and sharp. Is this some kind of revenge? I took a breath through my nose. Calm. Controlled. No, I said. Revenge implies I still care. I came here to deliver clarity. That's it. You took 3 years from me, Tessa. The least I could do is take 10 minutes from yours. She scoffed, but it was hollow. I could see her mentally scrambling, looking for the next scene, the next line, the next way to spin herself into the victim. But nothing landed. Not this time. You said you were fine, she snapped, almost to herself. You said you were over it. I nodded. I am. But just because I'm over you doesn't mean I forgot what you did. I didn't vanish into the fog to protect you. I vanished to protect me. And now I'm back. Briefly. Just long enough to hand you the mirror." Griffin muttered something under his breath, but neither of us listened. Tessa was too busy unraveling. She didn't look powerful anymore. She looked like someone standing in the wreckage of a house they set on fire, confused as to why the heat still hurts. "I didn't know he was," she started, but I cut her off with a wave of my hand. "I don't care," I said. "What he is or isn't the point. The point is that you hurt people like it's nothing. You walk away and rewrite the story with yourself as the victim, and you never expect it to catch up to you. But the truth doesn't care how long it waits. And today, it walked right up to you wearing boots." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. And then, just like she did 3 years ago, I left. I didn't yell. I didn't ask her to explain. I didn't look back. I walked straight down the shoreline and let the ocean carry away whatever was left of the version of me she thought would beg. This time, I wasn't broken. I was free. I didn't go far. Just around the bend of the shoreline, past the rocks where the tourists usually stop taking photos. I wasn't running. Not this time. I was waiting. Because the story wasn't finished. Not yet. What Tessa didn't know, what she couldn't even imagine, was that this meeting was only half the plan. I sat down on the driftwood bench facing the cliffs, the wind loud enough to drown out the world, and pulled out my phone again. There was a new message already waiting. "She's still standing there." He walked off in the other direction. "You were right. She's breaking." I smiled. The message was from Lena. And no, not a new girlfriend, not some rebound or dramatic love interest from my glow-up arc. Lena was something much simpler and much more dangerous. She was Griffin's wife. Or ex-wife, depending on how the next few days played out. 3 weeks ago, Lena found my name in a dusty old email thread. One of those accidental CC moments that happens when cheaters get lazy. She reached out to me through an anonymous burner account, asking if I was that Melvin. The one married to Tessa. The one her husband used to joke about in texts as the emotional spreadsheet guy. That's literally how Griffin referred to me, like I was just some forgotten Excel file he'd minimized. She was calm, too calm, which made me trust her. There was no yelling, no sobbing, just facts. And timelines. And screenshots. So many screenshots. She'd been collecting everything for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. The only thing she didn't have was a face-to-face encounter. Closure. Proof that Griffin's charm was only skin deep. So I offered her one. We coordinated everything. Dates, times, location. She knew Tessa and Griffin liked to visit that exact beach every Saturday morning, and I made sure I just happened to be there this time. Everything was designed to look natural. The conversation, the confrontation, the silent exit. And Lena? She was watching the entire thing unfold from the coffee truck across the boardwalk, sipping a chai latte like it was just another Saturday. Tessa had no idea she was being watched by the woman whose marriage she helped destroy. I don't know if that's karma. I don't know if I believe in karma anymore. But I do know the moment I got up and left her standing there with Griffin's betrayal fresh in her hands, I gave Lena the window she needed. I don't know what she said when she approached. I only know she walked right up to Tessa 10 minutes after I left, and whatever came out of her mouth made Tessa sit down hard on the sand, like the ground finally gave up holding her. That image lives rent-free in my mind now. The woman who once told me I was emotionally slow, getting cornered by the wreckage she caused. No longer the muse, no longer the one in control, just a tangled, exposed version of herself. Stripped of the narrative she thought she owned. I didn't go back to check on her. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't the one left picking up broken pieces. She was. I didn't expect the message. It came 3 days later, tucked between a spam text about a free cruise and a reminder from my dentist. Just one line. From a number I hadn't seen in years, but still remembered by heart. Even now, reading it again, it barely makes a sound in my mind. Just a whisper, really. Can we talk? That was it. No apology. No explanation. No punctuation. Just the digital equivalent of a foot in the door. And for a moment, I hate admitting this. I hesitated. Not because I missed her. Not because I cared about what she had to say. But because I wanted to know why. Why would someone like Tessa, who used to cut people out like dead branches, suddenly want to talk? What could possibly be left to say? So I waited. I didn't reply that day. Or the day after. I let it sit. Let it fester. Let her wonder if the silence she'd once weaponized had turned against her. I imagined her staring at her screen, chewing on her thumbnail, crafting messages she'd delete before sending. The woman who once ghosted me was now clinging to a ghost of her own. On the 5th day, I finally responded. Say what you need to say. I'm not meeting in person. The reply came within 2 minutes. Like she'd been sitting with the draft open, fingers hovering. You didn't have to humiliate me like that. Humiliate her. That was her takeaway. Not the cheating. Not the abandonment. Not the wreckage she left behind like I was just clutter in the attic of her life. No, my presence was the problem. My silence was the betrayal. I should have ignored it. I know. But I typed anyway. Slowly. Carefully. You're upset because I finally let you feel what you made me live through. No response came for hours. I thought that would be the end of it. That she'd retreat into whatever curated reality she lived in now. But that night, just after midnight, my phone lit up again. This time, it wasn't anger. It was something else. Something raw. It started with a voice memo. I hesitated before playing it, thumb hovering over the icon. But curiosity won. She was crying. I'd only heard her cry twice before. Once at her father's funeral. Once when she thought she lost her passport before our trip to Iceland. This wasn't like either of those times. This was different. She didn't speak for the first 10 seconds, just the sound of her trying to collect herself. And then, finally, her voice came through, low and cracked. I didn't know he was cheating on me too. I thought it was different with him. I thought leaving you meant I was choosing the better version of my life. She sniffled. I don't know what I expected when I saw you. You looked calm, strong, like someone I couldn't reach anymore. And that scared me. Because you used to look at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. Another pause. Then the words that stuck with me long after the message ended. I think I broke something I can't fix. And I don't even know who I am without you hating me. I didn't respond. Not then. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, the phone warm in my hand. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even satisfied. I just felt done. Not victorious. Not vindicated. Just done. And sometimes, that's enough. The next morning, I found another message from her. This one wasn't a voice memo. It was long. A wall of text. Like she'd finally broken through her own silence and couldn't stop the words from spilling out. She wrote about her regret, how she thought freedom would feel like flying, but instead felt like falling without a bottom. She said things I never expected to hear from her. Things like, I used you as a mirror and blamed you for what I saw. And, I thought leaving you would make me feel more alive, but all it did was make me feel like a stranger to myself. She admitted that Griffin had been cheating from the start, that even when she left me, she knew there were other women, but she convinced herself she could be the one who tamed him, that he only acted like that because he wasn't with the right woman yet. And she truly believed she was that woman. She wasn't. She told me she'd confronted him the night after the beach, that she screamed, cried, begged, broke a plate. And he just stared at her like she was being dramatic. Told her, you knew what this was. And walked out. Just like she once walked out on me. Now she was alone. Not empowered. Not free. Not enlightened. Just alone. And suddenly, she wanted me back. Not out of love. I could read through that. But because she realized I was the only person who ever really stayed. The only person who knew her chaos and still tried to hold her through it. She ended the message with a single request. If I ever meant anything to you at all, please just meet me once. Not to fight. Not to fix. Just meet me. It's strange, the way those words hit. A year ago, they might have shattered me. I might have dropped everything and run to her like she was home and I'd been out in the cold for too long. But now they just felt late. I sat with the message for a full day. Thought about what meeting her would really change. Thought about the years I spent cleaning up the pieces of a life she exploded without warning. And I realized something. She wasn't asking for closure. She was asking for comfort. She wanted to borrow my peace like it was hers to take. She wanted my healing to soothe her guilt. But that's not how it works. You don't get to wreck someone's foundation and then ask to stand on it when your new house collapses. So I wrote back, carefully. I don't hate you, but I'm not yours to lean on anymore. That was all. I hit send and turned my phone off. And for the first time in years, I felt no ache. No heaviness. No wondering what she was doing or who she was with. Just silence. But not the kind that used to haunt me. This time, it felt like peace. 2 weeks passed. I didn't hear from her again. No follow-up. No guilt-laced essays. Just silence. For once, the kind of silence that didn't carry tension, but resolution. It wasn't the silence she used to punish me with, and it wasn't the silence I once sat in like a prison. It was clean, final, and I knew, deep down, that she understood. Maybe for the first time in her life. I don't think she'll ever message me again. Not because she doesn't want to, but because she finally realized she doesn't get to. And me? I moved on long before she ever saw me standing on that beach. But I didn't realize how far I'd come until a week after everything when I ran into someone unexpected at the farmer's market. Her name was Nora. We'd worked together years ago, barely more than small talk over burnt coffee and shared frustration with an old boss. Back then, she was going through a divorce, and I was quietly unraveling inside my marriage. We were two ghosts pretending to be alive at our desks. But that day, she saw me reaching for the same jar of blackberry jam, and something just clicked. We both laughed, I don't even remember at what, and ended up walking the market together. Not romantic, not heavy, just light, easy. She didn't know anything about my story. I didn't tell her, not at first, because for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a man carrying baggage. I felt like someone new, someone not defined by what had been done to him, someone who had finally stepped out of the storm, soaked, exhausted, but still standing. We've gone on 3 walks since. No expectations, no labels, just fresh air and real conversations. And maybe that's all I need for now. Tessa once told me I was predictable, but here's the twist she never saw coming. I didn't just survive her. I outgrew her. I left the past on that beach, standing in designer sandals and a face full of regret, while I walked forward into a life that didn't need her approval or apology. Sometimes the best revenge isn't watching them fall. It's showing up, whole, healed, and happy, while they're still wondering how you ever stood back up.